So what's happening when you write code and how it should read whatever language is? So it's reading from top to bottom. But in JavaScript, it reads from top to bottom, but there is some phase we can say when before JavaScript execute your code, it's try to understand what you wrote. You can think like that. So during this reading step, never forget that the var keyword and the function keyword. These two keywords are important. So whenever JavaScript engine saw them, it's doing some stuff behind the scene, and we have to understand them what it does. When we check the first example in here, let's just like think like that. This is just normal flow, and you don't have to like, there is nothing complex happening in here. There is no way to something complex happen, because it just, just normal, and it should print the variable a. But when you just switch it, normally what you assume based on other languages, you say, okay, there is no way to access in a because you never wrote it. But in JavaScript, this is what we call hoisting, and this is what it can access, variable a. And when we save this, it's going to print undefined. And this is why we need to know this hoisting. And like I said, when you write your code, JavaScript is going to try to understand what you write, and we can just think like it's phase one and it's try to understand it, but it doesn't run your code. So that in that recognition phase, like I said, var keyword and function keyword are important. When it sees for this code, when we check like behind the scene, what actually happening, it's in phase one, it's come here and say, okay, variable a, and it just skip. But when it see this, and when it see assignment, what that actually do in the behind the scene, like your code is like that. You say, it says JavaScript engine behind the scene, variable a, and console.log, and then just remove this one, sorry about that. And the variable a, this code is like that behind the scene. This is why we get the undefined. Can you see that? When you declare something like that, it's going to be undefined because it's behind the scene. Everything like that is going to be undefined. This is the normal behavior of the JavaScript. When you declare a variable without assigning, it's going to be undefined. And this is why we're not getting any error, we just getting undefined. This is the reason. Let me comment these both. I think this makes sense. Let's go with this one. This is let be. We're not going to talk about details about let const. Like I said, just focus on var keyword and the function keyword for now. And this is something, a new way to you can declare variable with JavaScript, and you do console.log b, and this is going to give you an error before initialization. So what's happening in here? Like, does this is getting hoisting or it's not getting hoisting? What's happening? In this code, JavaScript still, when you write your code, it's going to, like I said, try to understand what you write before it execute. So when it sees this, it's still hoisting, but it's not let you to access it. The reason it's hoisting, because you cannot access B before initializing, it says. It's like, okay, I know you are in there, just because you tried to access it before. So it's not going to give you completely like undefined error, but it says, okay, I know you there, but I cannot let you to access it yet. Like it's aware that this let B is in your code, and this is also important. JavaScript knows it exists in there. But this is the whole point with the let and const keywords. Like, this is why they are exist. The new way, or to get rid of the complexity of the hoisting or things like that. So what about this example? This example is inside a function. Like I said, when you wrote your code, and function keyword is important for the JavaScript in the first phase, when it tries to understand what you wrote. When we type, can you see it's var global effect? Actually, there is no var. Okay, there is no var. It's just a variable name. When you do test, and when you save, because you have to run it in order to get it work. What do you think if we call this one? What do you think we will get? Just think a bit. Let's think about the execution phase. This is when it's run, it's going to run this and then this. When it's run test, it's running this one and just finished, and then console.log like this. This is in global. This is inside a function. But just because we didn't define any keyword like variable, const, let, and this makes difference, when we save it, we see we get F, and it's on the window, like global scope. It's on global right now. We write in the function, but actually we can access from global. And this is also important. Whatever you declare without any var, let, or const is going to be on global. Let's move the other example. When we declare with the var keyword, and when we run it, and when we take console.log and not global, what do you think we will get? We will get not defined. It completely doesn't know what you talk about. It doesn't see it. Like, it's not there. When something is not there, you're going to get this error. Did you notice something? It's undefined now. If we say like that, it's still undefined. This is because when it knows you type something in there, like in the phase 1. What I'm trying to say, it doesn't have any relate with this when we do window www, because in phase 1 it's coming and it sees you have window www, and it assign it with undefined if you didn't declare anything. But when you say not global, it doesn't recognize. It's not because we type window.notglobal. This is, if we see like that, this is another different variable name. This is why we get undefined. So what's important in here, when you say inside function, when you declare a variable, it's going to be inside that function, like the scope. I know, bear with me. I know it's about scope or things like that, but it's also related with hoisting. Let's remove this and combine both of them. Okay, when we run this too, what you're going to expect? First of all, in this function, we said this is going to be a effect of the global, and this is not going to affect the global at all, or not going to create this variable on the global. So when we save this, you see that we can access f, but we cannot access global, just like you learned before. I'm going to uncomment this. Actually, the below examples relate with these things that we learn. Check this code and please try to think what's going to be printed based on what you learned. Let's think together. We said when JavaScript reads your code, before it executes, it's try to understand what you wrote, and we said var keyword and function keywords are important. Means it has something happen behind the scene. So when we see in here variable global a, it just assigning it, and there is also function we call test, and we call the test. When we call the test in this phase, it's going to go inside the test, and there is a global a, but this global a doesn't have any var key or whatever. It just says global a, just like you learned in here in example 3. When you declare something that doesn't have any var, let, or whatever keyword, it's going to affect the global, we said, and this is why it's going to affect the global. So what is in global? Is there something else that's called the same name? Yes, we have global a, which is a global a in the string, but we are assigning in function like that. Does it going to override it? Yes, because we run it and it's going to affect the global. So when we console.log it, it's actually not going to give us this, it's going to give us this, because we run it and we checking if there is, and we say what is global a, and if we save, you can see it's changed. So other example, let's think together, and we write something like this, and there is a var function test whatever, and in phase 1 we said var and function is important, something happened behind the scene with the hoisting, and also when it's come inside the function code that you wrote, it's also example to have this mindset. Okay, it's not just about the global code that you wrote. Inside the function, you also have to have this mindset, like the variable, or if there is other function happening in your code, this is the same. We have variable global a, and we have function, and we have test. We running test, and when it runs, this is things gets weird, I'll say. We said that you have to think this code just like a global, like before it's run, before it's execute, before it start execute your code, it's also try to understand what you wrote first. It doesn't immediately executing. So when it's try to understand your code, you see there is a var global a in here. So this is where we have to be careful. Like it's actually happening, of course, from top to bottom, but with the var keyword, it's like it's there, and you can do you remember this logic, this behind the scene, when we said behind the scene, it's moving like top. It's actually not a moving type, but it's actually like that. I mean, you can think literally like that, but just have a mindset of phase 1 and phase 2. It's going to be much easier for you to understand. This logic is not just about the global, it's also inside the function when you write your code. So in here, if you think normal, like, okay, global A is like that, and then we reassign it and it's nothing. If you think like that, you're going to make mistake. Like, you're going to say, okay, it's now, I don't know, maybe it's still this or this. You get confused, and when you save, it's global A. Why exactly this is global A? When you think about this, if you examine your code, you say, okay, we have global A and this is there. Just because we don't have global A in our code in function, it's going to override this, just like we learned in above. In here, it's going to affect the global one normally, but there is something weird in here, like this var, and this change things. Let me copy this and like behind the scene, okay, for this function. We said that you have to have mindset not just for global, also inside any function. So when JavaScript reads your code, it's try to examine this too. So when it see var, as I said, var means something is going to happen behind the scene. So it's like this, var global A, just like before. It's going to define like this, and it is going to say, okay, I have something like this in here and I assign it global A, and actually it's overriding this one, not the global one, because we had global one in here. It's overriding this, and then it's again overriding the same variable, this one, because it was already there. So when, like I said, when JavaScript examine your code, it's going to declare and initialize for the var keyword, and then whatever code you have, it's going to start to execute. Okay, so even if we had not just var, let's change this function. Okay, function. What do you think is going to happen in here? Like, if I change this to function, this is empty function, and just, you can ignore this for now. What do you think about this? Is it going to be something different? Just think about this. Let's save it. You see, it doesn't change, which means it doesn't affect the global A. Why? Because, like I said, when it examines your code in phase 1, it sees function. And when it sees function, it's actually like top of your code, like behind the scene. This is not anymore function variable, this is actually your function, like that, just like that. And when you say global A, you are overwriting a variable that was a function to string. And just because in JavaScript it's dynamic, which means you can change any variable like if it's number, you can convert it to string like on the fly. JavaScript will allow you to do this. So variable global a is nothing. Now you override this, and you never touch this, because it doesn't allow you because of this code. Even if it's like it seems like it's before, but like after, actually it's before. Let's move. What about this example? When we check it, like I said, this is a function keyword, and whenever we write a function keyword and variable keyword, it's important, like we have to be aware what we're doing. And in here we are declaring a function that is called testing function, and it's just a dummy function, but we are trying to access it before we actually create it. And I said in phase one, before it actually executes your code, it's going to read from top to bottom, and it's, oh, okay, I see a function, so I'm going to move it at the top of your code, think like that. And actually this is in reality is in top also. So when you do this, this is what you can access. And this is only happening with the var and the function keyword. This is important. And the var is going to be initialized with the undefined, okay? But the function is going to be undefined, is going to be defined, excuse me. It's going to be defined whatever it is. It's not going to be undefined or something. And this is why if I command this, let me save, it's going to give you exactly the function you have, like anything, everything inside it. Like if I say function b like that, and if I save, it's also going to show you that there is a function b inside it. What about this one, function c? Does it going to see? Yes, because it's also a function. Before it's execute your code, it's going to see any var or function starting keywords is going to be top on your code. Actually, let and cost also is going to move the top, but it's another concept, like it's not going to initialize them. This is why you cannot access them. But for the, just think simple, var and function, you can access them, and var is going to be undefined at the initialize phase, initialize value. So what about this code? This is a bit different. As you can see, it's not start with the function exactly. I mean, it is a function, but it doesn't start with the function. This one is absolutely start with the function, as you can see. And this is why we call this function declaration. This is a function declaration because it starts with the function. And this one is function expression, we say. And we are assigning with a let variable name this to function. This is function expression, and I'm trying to access a function expression before it's created. And think it's simple, you know, I will say, like I said, when you see var and function like this, you know, in your code like that, this is important, okay? Nothing else is important. Like there is a let, you see, it's not var or function, it's let. You don't have to confuse. So this is because it's let, you say, okay, it's that, there's no way to access it, you know, just think like that. Because in, you know, that doesn't happen, you know, this is the same concept. So with this, don't get confused. So it's actually going to be at top still, but it doesn't allow us to access it. Let's save. You see, cannot access this before initializing. So it's like, okay, I know you there, I know you are there, I know you wrote it in here when it comes here, when you execute this. Hey, I know you there, but sorry, I cannot let you to access this because this is the whole point. This let comes in the language, like one of the other purpose of it, you know, to make it things simple that is confusing for the people. This is why we cannot access it. What about this one? What it is? It says variable assignment over function declaration. Okay, these names are always confusing at first, but just try to ignore this right now and focus on what we wrote based on what we learned. And you are going to see that it's really not something confused because once you understand the concept. So, okay, let's check. There is a var, there is a function which we said if there is a something, both of them, we have to be careful. So when it says console.log t, so what's going to happen? Okay, let's examine. We said in phase 1, before JavaScript execute your code, it's going to phase 1 like examine your code, and it says, okay, var t, I have a var t, so let's write it, okay, behind C. And okay, I have var t, and it's going to say var t like that. And then it saw the function t, it say, oh, I see function t, and I'm going to move this also to top, but right after the var t, it's not going to be above because it's going to be mess if it was like this. And after that, this is what JavaScript does, okay? And then it's check if var and function, other var function exists. If it was like var a like this, it would be var a like that. It would be at the top of your code. You can think just like that, or in the phase, which one is comes for you to much more easy to understand. It's your preference. Just think always before it execute your code, it's examine. It's like, hey, okay, you write code, but I don't know, maybe I don't trust you. Think like that. This is what's happening behind the scene. So just because we have this, now when it comes to execution phase, it says, okay, var t. So I say it was var t, and now it's 1. And then this one is executed. But actually the reason is this is not a fact because it's actually in there, like the entire function already in there. Just because it's already in there, there's no reason to do this for JavaScript. JavaScript is smart. So what's happening is now, oh, I already know your entire, you know, but in here you made assignment. You didn't write just t again. Okay, you do an assignment, you override it. This is why it's going to care about this code. But when it's come here, it says, okay, behind the scene, oh, I know this, so there's no reason to do it again. So it's skip, like, and then if it comes here, and then, and what is in this phase when you console.log t, it's going to be 1, you know, because this is the last thing that you write. So it should print 1, not anything else. This is why it is going to print 1, you see? And this is why actually we say variable assignment over function declaration, but this is just something you don't have to memorizing it, because there is no way to memorize everything. You have to understand the concept, and this is why it says variable assignment. Yeah, this is a variable assignment over the function declaration over the function, which means it's going to be over it. And but the logic is this, you know, you don't have to memorize these things. You have to understand the concept, and this is what is the concept. Let's check this one, and please try to do the same what we learned, and it's going to be pretty, you know, easy for you after you learn this. And let's go step by step. Just this is var, you know, let's start to examine it. Our code, we say, okay, there's a var j and it doesn't do any assignment. This is the like phase one, like I said, or examining your code by JavaScript, and or, you know, behind scene, you can think like that. So we said there is a var, there is a function, we have to be careful absolutely for this too, and because they get hoisting, and let const or other things also get hoisting, but it's not initializing, like it's there, I know you're there, but I cannot let you to access. So just don't get confused the other things for now. Once you understand this concept, other things really going to be too much easy for you. So var j and function j. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we say var j, and okay, I move you at the top, and I have also a function, I will also move you to the top, and then this is the phase one. Okay, we not execute yet, so when execution phase comes, okay, I will execute this. So when it's start to execute, oh, it says, oh, I have this, so you know, so it says, okay, I have this, I don't have to run it again, and it's like a skip var j, because it's already there, you know. And when it's come here, it also says skip because it's already there, you know, like it's there, why you should have to run again. But when it's come here, oh, I see something new and I should really care about this, and it's run. But what is j? J was this, not anything else, you know. Just because j is this, it should print this. There's nothing fancy about this, you know. Same concept on here, but in different way, a bit different. So when we run this, it's going to ask the function, you can see. Okay guys, we covered hoisting with some examples, and the main thing is that we have to be careful about the var and function keywords. Also the mindset of whatever happened inside the you know, the function, any function, it's actually like you have to have a mindset like it's like a global. Yeah, whatever in global happening, it's also happening inside any function. And this is why the hoisting brings complexity. But if you just ask my opinion about this, just it's powerful, these things of JavaScript, it's powerful, but it brings complexity once you start to work with the team, I guess. But just keep it simple, don't try to, my recommendation, just follow the normal rule with the other languages. Like, don't try to do function and try to access before, just access after, you know, access after, so you won't get confused. All Also with the variable, you can just say use let const and access after, or even if you don't access after, it's going to give you error, as you can see. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. If you feel that you learned something new, please consider about supporting and liking the video. Thank you for watching.